I'm Michael Fox, and this is the Prospector Podcast. And we are on location at the PDAC in Toronto. And I'm sitting across from a longtime friend and CFO of I went to the old company, Denarius Metals, Mike Davies. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Michael.
I was surprised that I did that, but that's how far back you and I go.
Yeah, no, it happens quite often. In fact, I still have a lot of people that know me and talk to me about our days running Grand Colombia Gold, which is now Aris Mining, but it's good background and good experience that we gained working in mining projects in Colombia.
Yes. Let's talk about Denarius Metals. Let's tell people what it is and what you've been doing and where you're doing it. And you still do have projects in Colombia, so let's go there.
All right. Well, Denarius is a junior company listed on CBOE Canada under the symbol DMET. We started the company back in 2021, where when we were still as a management team working with Grand Colombia Gold. We were led by a very seasoned mine builder, Serafino Iacono, who's our biggest shareholder, holds about 20%. And the vision is really creating a company that's going to move quite quickly into production. We've got two projects coming into operation within the next 12 months. The first one starting, as you mentioned, in Colombia at Zancuda within the next few weeks. And so it's an exciting time for the company as we build on our projects, which are in Colombia and Spain, and focused on a broad range of polymetallic critical minerals.
Yeah, I liken your last year to a quote that somebody often uses about the duck on the pond. Everything's still on the pond and quiet, but those little legs and feet are moving rapidly underneath and propelling the duck forward. That's the perfect analogy for Denarius for 2024. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, beneath the surface of press releases and all of that, on both where you are in Spain and in Colombia. That's bringing you forward to where you are today. So let's talk about what was accomplished in Colombia last year, and then where exactly that project's going to go.
No, it's a reasonable comment. It's 2024 was really a groundwork preparatory year for us, particularly in Colombia. We acquired the project a few years ago. IM Gold was drilling it. Unfortunately, with Cote, they couldn't complete the earn-in that they were doing, and we found ourselves in late 22 with 100%, interest in the project still in our hands. We've hired a contract miner who started doing some work when last year was really about settling the permits that we would need so we could start mining. And we got the mining permit earlier in the year, but we were pending a environmental impact study approval, which thankfully we finally got at the end of 2024, one of the few permits that's been approved in the mining industry during the current government. And that allows us to get moving forward with production at the moment. But in the meantime, last year we also laid the groundwork for the future of the offtake by signing a commercial agreement with Trafigura. They're going to pay us for the high-grade gold, silver concentrates we'll deliver over the next 8 years to them. And then we started negotiation with them on a prepay agreement, which we recently assigned. And so they're going to fund us with $9 million over the course of the next 6 months as we finish construction at Zancuda on our plant. The project's now fully funded. So a lot of different activity to bring us to what's now an exciting jump-off moment when we can start production, do some toll milling while we're finishing our plant, and later this year have a plant up and running at about 1,000 tons a day capacity, of which we'll initially use probably half until we get the rest of the development done.
Yeah, so how close are we? Let's look forward into 2025.
Right, so mine contractors started work. They're starting to pull some material. It's going to be a gradual ramp up as we go through the year. There's some development that's happening in parallel now that they've got explosives license as a result of getting our environmental approval. We'll be doing, sort of 100 tons a day, and we'll gradually get up to 200. We'll exit this year at about 500 tons a day of material being mined. And then as we continue development next year, that'll round us out by the end of 26, being at 1,000 tons a day, which will fully fill our concentrate plant.
Wonderful. Now, these plants are actually under construction. How far along are they, and are they on time and on budget?
On time and on budget, yes. With our expectations, we should have our own 1,000 ton a day concentrate plant construction completed later this fall. So as an interim measure to start getting some early production cash flow, we're going to be toll milling the material that we're mining with some third parties in Colombia. That'll allow us to start getting some concentrates that we can deliver to Trafigura and do that in parallel with the construction activities that are commencing now.
Okay, let's jump over the pond, as they like to say in Britain, to the projects in Spain. Again, very much the duck on the pond analogy sits well here, and you're looking at putting that into production as well. So let's talk about the progress that was made in Spain on that mine, and let's take a look at the future of where that's going.
So in Spain, our primary project for a long time in the beginning of this company has been the Lamero project. And as we did our drilling and looked at our evaluation of the potential for development of that project, the piece that became most important for us to solve was how are we going to process the material? We'd looked around the Iberian Pyrite Belt at a number of other players and looked for spare capacity, maybe a toll milling type basis. And then in late 23, a very pivotal opportunity created for us the chance to buy 21% of the old Rio Narcia assets that were owned by Lundin Mining in the Extremadura area. That came with a 5,000 ton a day turnkey plant, perfect for us. And it came with an underground nickel copper mine developed, ready to be dewatered, and could go back into production. So we spent 2024 largely working on the plans to bring the Agua Blanca Rio Narcia underground mine back into operation, the plans to put the mill back into operation, and then starting to round out the scoping study on Lamero for how it will become in a couple of years' time an integral part of the overall processing plan around that Rio Narcia plant. At the same time, we were working on the metallurgical studies for the Lamero project. It's got, high grade copper, but it's got some of the highest grades of gold in the Iberian Pyrite Belt. So we really wanted to spend a lot of time figuring out how we could get the most gold out of this project. And I think similar to an announcement that Emerita made in December, we found that through our met testing for Lamero, that if we roast it, we can actually liberate a more significant amount of that gold encapsulated in the pyrite out of the project. And it becomes, instead of a copper-focused project, a gold-focused project, which in today's environment with gold prices over $2,900 is something that is very exciting for us in terms of the potential for cash flow generation out of that project. So this is the path forward as we look at the combination of Agua Blanca and Lomero. Start the underground mining at Rio Narcia's underground mine. We've got an offtake contract with Boliden to sell them the nickel copper con. And at the same time, continue to now move the development of the Lamero asset forward, incorporating a roaster at the Agua Blanca plant to help us significantly increase the financial returns out of Lamero when it starts up in about 2 years' time.
And when is the construction decision going to be made on Lamero?
Probably next year. We'll need, this is going to be a PEA scoping study at this point. We want to do a bit more drilling, firm up some more tons for it. But more important, we got to get into the full engineering studies around the roaster, the permitting processes for the roaster. There are 3 other roasters in Spain. We know it's a process that can be applied in Spain. So probably about another year to get a PFS and then start lining up the financing for that, which will probably be more project level financing. And if we're fortunate with share price appreciation, we'll see more of our warrants that we have outstanding at 60 and 74 cents, providing some cash flow for us as well.
That would definitely be good. Now, the actual milling plant up at the underground mine, is it the same milling process as you would be for the copper nickel to get the gold out of the new? Does any work need to be done to bring that up?
Some work will need to be done. I mean, it'll be a 2-stage sort of process where we will process the material through the flotation circuit, generating zinc and copper cons, and then have a secondary process where we will pass the remaining material through the roasting process to liberate the gold, the sulfuric acid, potentially some iron ore, to get the full returns out of that material.
Okay. And that mill right now is suitable for how much inflow during a day?
It's got a 5,000 ton a day capacity. Our initial plans will be to dedicate about 2,500 tons a day to the traditional nickel copper processing that went on during the Lundin days. That's the concentrate that we've contracted to sell to Boliden. And then we will add on the additional systems that we need and compile that with the roaster to allow us to do the other 2,500 tons a day for the Lamero project.
And will that be sufficient, or will that mill need to be upgraded for more capacity?
It won't need to be upgraded for more to suit those operations. We'll be building a longer term, a longer life asset. Right now, the underground mine at the Agua Blanca project goes for about 6 years, and we think with exploration could be 10. Lamero is looking like it's going to be a 10-year asset, but exploration will hopefully span that out over time. With that facility, we're trying to create a very long life asset that can be the sort of the hub in our hub and spoke strategy. It'll be a central processing facility that'll manage material, not just from Agua Blanca and Lamero, potentially Toral, potentially other mines that are in the area that need a home for material. So create a big central processing facility and then use our mining projects to feed it over time. It allows you to accelerate production from the projects, not having to build a separate processing facility and permit it at each project, and leverages all your processing capacity in a really nice modern facility, which will be environmentally sound.
Wonderful. So essentially, this company in the next 12 months is going to go from having no mines operating to having 3 mines operating, essentially. And I guess in 24 months, because the other Spanish. What other projects and operations do you have going on that could, add more projects and more mines to this down the road?
Well, I think that's a very enthusiastic question. I think we've got a lot on our plate right now, and one of the things we realize is to be successful, you have to focus on your execution of your projects. So right now, focus on Colombia is very important to get off the ground well. Laying the groundwork and do the dewatering and the plant restart at Agua Blanca is our main focus. Progressing the studies for Lamero, very important. And later this year, we'll get into progressing the studies on the Toral project. That's sort of a late stage exploration. Always, have our eye out for other things that fit in well with our operations. And if the right opportunity were to present itself, we'd take a look. But for the moment, stick to our knitting and make sure that we deliver on the execution of the strategy we've laid out.
Wonderful. If people want to follow this story further, because it is an exciting one, how would they do so, Mike?
Keep them posted. Social media is always a great thing. We got a lot of updates going through social media, and certainly follow us on DMET on the SIBO listing.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for joining me and bringing me back up to speed with everything that's been going on. As I say, it appeared to be a quiet year, but it was far from it.
No, it's never a quiet year with us.
Perfect.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Mike. The Prospector News Podcast is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and are not to be taken as investment advice. Listeners need to do their own due diligence and seek advice of a licensed investment advisor.